Continuing our lessons in the elements of art, we are now going to be looking at form. Form is the element of art that actually combines multiple elements together to create a 3D looking object on a two-dimensional surface. For instance, you start off with a line that gets closed off to make a shape, and then you add values to that shape to create a form, which is something that looks three-dimensional but on a flat piece of paper, where it looks like it has depth, but in actuality, it's all implied. That is what form is, and form is used to create depth in artwork, to make something look three-dimensional when it's really not. For instance, this artwork is graffiti, and it is all graffiti, including the man wallpapering up the graffiti. It looks like that this man is actually standing there because of the use of values. It creates a form by using shading around the sides of where the light would be hitting and bouncing shadows around. And it has that illusion because not only does the shadow hit the man, but it also hits the wallpaper as well, therefore creating a form. Just like with this artwork, where the artist is standing in front of his pencil drawing of a deer, and the deer looks realistic because of the use of values in the form. So as it curves away from the light, it gets darker and creates that illusion of form. And then finally, probably the most famous optical illusion of all time, M.C. Escher's drawing hands. This is a great example of how line can then get turned into a shape, which then gets value added to it, which then gets turned into a form, and then it circles back around and starts drawing itself all over again. And that brings me to your all's assignment. Your assignment, you're going to be drawing toys, and you're going to be drawing them in the style of forms. And what I mean by that, you're going to be breaking down the toys into basic shapes, so they're basic fundamental shapes. Then you're going to be adding values to the shape itself, not the table. You're going to be shading the toy, which I'll get to in a bit, and then you're going to be turning that drawing into a form that has three-dimensional depth. As some examples, we have these student works here. These are great examples of how you can use shading and values to create three-dimensional forms just by observation. I do like this example of Pikachu because you can see how the artist starts off with a circle for the head and quickly outlines that circle, and then adds in the other shapes like the triangle for the arm and the triangle for the ears, and then they refine those lines. It's the perfect step and process that you need to take whenever you are creating art. These are also some very good examples of proper shading. Now, something that I want to point out is do not shade the table. Your main focus is going to be shading inside of the toy. If you shade the table underneath the toy and just have a plain white toy, it will not look like a form. Instead, it'll look like a bleached white toy that's sitting in a pile of something that I don't want to think about. Of course, I'm going to be giving you a live demonstration, so let's go ahead and jump over to the live demo. For my example, I chose to draw this Pikachu here. Now, it can apply for any toy at all. The first step is to always select your toy and then put it off to the side and do not touch it. Keep it in one place, because every time you pick it up and move it, you're going to change the lighting and your perspective on the toy. Start off with basic shapes, circles, triangles, squares, whatever you need. Just break down the area inside of the toy into its basic shapes. For instance, with Pikachu, I start off with a circle for the head, oval for the body, and triangles for the ears. Now, these lines are just preliminary lines. They are not set in stone. Once you get the basic shapes done, then you can go in and start adding in some more definitive lines. For instance, obviously Pikachu's head is not a perfect circle, but you can go in and start adding in those lines to make it look more like what you're drawing. Once you get those definitive lines down, then you can go in and start looking at the shading and values. Look at where the light is hitting it. Where the light is hitting the toy is going to be the lightest area, and then where the shadows are is going to be the darkest area. Do not shade the table. Instead, shade the toy. That is what makes a form possible. For instance, in this example, I am looking at the lighting where the light is hitting Pikachu at the top of the ear. and I'm creating the values and shading around the bottom side of the ear. You don't have to shade the whole thing. In fact, you can leave the area where the light from the room is hitting the toy, you can leave that perfectly white, and that's entirely fine. Try and make this drawing as big as possible. It'll help you out later. And that is going to be your whole assignment. Now, depending on when we have this lesson, sometimes I have this lesson last a couple days, other times I have this lesson last a week. It really depends on where I feel like this lesson needs to fall. Thank you all very much. I hope that you have learned more about the element of art known as form. If you have any questions, please let me know.